I've always liked driving through the middle of nowhere. I grew up in a small town, spent a lot of time on empty roads. I used to tell people it helped me think. Truth is, I just liked the quiet. No headlights behind me. No street signs. Just pavement that fades into dark, and the feeling that I've outrun everything else for a little while. I hadn't gone for one of those drives in over a year. Then last week, I couldn't sleep. I tossed for hours, staring at the ceiling. Something about the air in the room felt heavy. Not hot, just thick. I got dressed and left the house around 1:30. Full tank of gas. Nothing planned. I didn't even bring a charger. I drove out of town without thinking. The streets were empty. No cars, no animals, no wind. Just rows of houses that looked like they were holding their breath. After a while, I passed the last set of traffic lights and turned off the highway onto a narrow gravel road I didn't recognize. No name, no markers, no houses. I followed it for maybe 10 miles. That's when I saw the light. It flickered through the trees, orange at first, then blue, unnatural, like fire seen through water. It came from the woods on the right, pulsing between the branches in a slow rhythm. I slowed the car. My headlights caught a path leading into the trees. Not a road, just a gap where the grass was thinner, like something had passed through many times before. I pulled off to the side and killed the engine. The silence hit hard. Not a quiet night kind of silence. A true absence of sound. No insects, no birds, just stillness, thick and patient. I stepped out. The forest smelled like copper and wet earth. I crossed the ditch and walked into the trees. The light pulsed steadily. My steps were nearly silent. The ground was soft, uneven. Roots pushed through the dirt like bones under skin. The path twisted and narrowed. The air grew warmer, the deeper I went. The light grew stronger. Blue mixed with orange, then faded to white. Not bright, not blinding. Just there, humming without sound. Then I reached the clearing. Circular, perfectly shaped, maybe 20 feet across. Lined with 7 large stone pillars, each one carved with a spiral pattern. Tall, narrow. They looked like they had grown from the ground rather than been placed. At the center of the clearing was a fire. Low, blue flame. No smoke. The logs beneath it didn't look burned. They glowed faintly, like stones left under a blacklight. Around the fire stood 13 people. I counted without realizing I was doing it. All of them wore dark robes. Long, hooded. Each held something different. One had a rope, one a bowl, one a lantern without flame. Another held what looked like a folded white cloth, soaked in something dark. They didn't move. They didn't speak. Then one of them stepped forward. They held a small black object. It looked like a cube, smooth and wet, like it had just been pulled from a riverbed. The figure lifted it toward the fire and lowered it slowly until it touched the flame. No sound, no smoke. The flame didn't react, but the trees did. Every branch around the clearing leaned inward slightly, like they were breathing in. The leaves trembled, but the air was still. Then every figure in the circle turned to face me. At the same time, perfectly synchronized. They didn't flinch. They didn't call out. They just turned. The forest between us wasn't thick enough to hide me, but I hadn't stepped into the clearing. I hadn't made a noise. They should not have seen me, but they did. I felt every one of them look through me. Not at me. Through. I backed up. One slow step. Then another. Then something behind me cracked. A stick, maybe. It was all I needed. I turned and ran. Branches slapped at my face. Roots tripped me. The path twisted and shrank. It felt longer than when I walked in. Every time I looked back, I saw nothing, but I felt movement. Not in the air. In the ground. Like the soil remembered I wasn't supposed to be there. When I reached my car, the driver's door was open. The keys were in the ignition. I don't leave them like that. I didn't care. I got in and drove, gravel spraying behind me. No headlights followed. But I didn't stop for 40 miles. I pulled into a gas station and sat in the lot for almost an hour. The guy behind the counter didn't say anything. But when I finally went inside, I caught him looking at the side of my car. When I got home, I checked. Drawn in the dust on the passenger side window was a spiral. Long, precise. I hadn't seen it before. And the next morning, the spiral was on the inside. I didn't go back. Not to the woods. Not to that road. Not even in the general direction. I deleted the GPS history and blocked off the night in my mind like a bad dream that only becomes real when spoken aloud. For a while, that worked. The spiral faded from the inside of the window. I wiped it away and pretended I had imagined it. I told myself maybe it had been dust. Pressure from my elbow, nothing more. I vacuumed the car, scrubbed the glass. Saturday with the key in my lap, and tried to forget. But the spiral came back. It was faint at first, on my bedroom wall, just behind the doorframe. Small, light enough to miss unless the light hit it right. It looked like a finger had dragged something oily across the paint. I painted over it. The next day, it was in the shower mirror. Then, on the inside of a drinking glass. Then, in the dust under the television. Always a spiral. Always perfect. I stopped cleaning them. Instead, I started tracking them. I wrote down the dates, the times, the surfaces. I measured them. They were always 7 inches across. Always clockwise. Always smudged slightly at the end, as if the finger had vanished mid-drag. Then the dreams returned. The clearing. The circle of stone. But now, I was inside it. Not standing in the trees. Not hidden. Right there, next to the fire. My hands were raised. My mouth was open. But I wasn't speaking. Someone else was. Using my mouth. I woke up with dried blood in my nose and a line on my cheek that matched the edge of my nightstand. I must have hit it during the dream, but I didn't remember moving. That was the first night I heard the voices. Not words, just patterns. Whispers made of breath. From inside the walls. From under the floor. From the drain. The air in the house grew heavy again. The same pressure I felt that first night in the woods, when the fire burned without smoke, and the trees leaned inward like they wanted to listen. I stopped sleeping. I started seeing movement in reflections. Not in the mirror itself, but in the edge of the glass. A figure standing behind me. Just outside the frame. Always in the same place. Just to the left. Always still. Watching. It was the same shape I saw in the clearing. One of the 13. I tried taking a photo of the mirror. The reflection didn't show, but the spiral did. Burned into the surface. Not drawn. Not scratched. Etched from the inside. I smashed it the next day. But the glass didn't shatter normally. It fell in a perfect circle, like a lens dropping from its mount. At the center of the floor beneath it was a patch of dust shaped like a human foot. Bare. Narrow. With no heel. I haven't had guests. No one else lives here. I cleaned it, but the spiral returned. On my pillow this time. Pressed gently into the fabric. I burned the pillow. The next morning, the spiral was on my chest. Pressed into the skin like a mild burn. No pain. Just warmth and an outline. I checked the mirror. It faded after 10 minutes. But I could still feel it. Like my skin remembered more than I did. I called out of work. I tried to drive somewhere, anywhere, but my car wouldn't start. Battery dead. When I opened the hood, the inside was filled with ash. Not dirt, not leaves. Ash. Fine. Black. Clean. I didn't put it there. That night, I set up cameras. 3 of them. 1 in the hall, 1 in the bedroom, 1 outside the house. I left them running until morning. When I checked the files, 2 were corrupted. Only the outside feed had saved. At 2:12 a.m., something appeared in the backyard. A line of figures. 13. All hooded. Still, the camera didn't flicker. It didn't glitch. They were just there. One frame empty. The next filled. They didn't move. They didn't enter. They just stood. Then, in the final frame before the file ended, one of them raised their hand and pointed at the window. My window. That was 3 days ago. I haven't seen them since. But the spiral keeps appearing. It's on my receipts, my shampoo bottle, my fingernail. It never stays, but it always comes back. Something about that ritual wasn't meant to be seen. And now that I have, I don't think I left the clearing. I think part of it left with me.